Hi guys, welcome to activity 2.14. We're on page 145. The title is Just the Right Rhetoric, Logical Appeals. Your learning target is to identify a writer's use of rhetorical appeals and analyze their effectiveness. So you need to mark ethos, logos, and pathos and tell me how effective they were. Okay, during the lesson today you're going to be close reading, marking the text with your metacognitive markers, paraphrasing, and note-taking. You have learned about claims, reasons, and evidence as important elements of effective arguments. Rhetoric, this is on your vocabulary test, it's on the left here.
Rhetoric.
Okay, rhetoric is the language a writer or speaker uses to persuade an audience. So rhetoric is ethos, logos, and pathos. Please share with your shoulder partner what logos is. Let's try that one first. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, please share with your partner what, so logos was using facts or logic, okay? Please share with your shoulder partner what pathos is. Share with your shoulder partner now and pause it. Okay, pathos is using emotion to persuade the reader. Please share with your shoulder partner what ethos is. I'm going to pause it. Ethos is using trust to persuade the writer. So you're going to be marking ethos, logos, and pathos throughout. So rhetoric is the art of using words to persuade in writing or speaking. Writers find interesting ways to use just the right words that appeal to their audience in order to convince them. We have rhetorical appeals. Rhetorical appeals can strengthen an argument by appealing to logic, logos, which is emotion. Logic is logos, and then emotions is pathos. And then a sense of right or wrong is ethos. You want to get them to trust you. Let's look more closely at the appeals of logos or logic as a way to build and strengthen an argument. Paraphrase the appeal of logos below. So logos is appeals to logic with statistics, facts, and examples. Logos is one of the most important appeals in an effective argument because of its use of facts and logic to build relevant and sufficient reasoning. Please paraphrase right here what logos is. So you're paraphrasing in your own words what logos is, and it tells you right here. I'm going to highlight that. Please put it in your own words. What is logos? Okay, next, before reading, activate prior knowledge. What do you know about the abolitionist movement or women's suffrage in America? So this is just your opinion. What do you know about that? So anything you know about the abolitionist movement or women's suffrage. Please write that now. I'll pause it. Number 2, skim and scan the following 2 speeches to notice the titles. What can you predict each speech is about? So skim and scan both speeches, and you're making predictions for speech 1. So that's speech 1. Prediction for speech 2. Please write them down. I'll pause it now. Okay, during reading, conduct a close reading of the following speeches. Mark the text to identify the elements of argumentation. You are going to highlight the claim. I'm going to highlight it now. Whoops. Reasons and evidence. You are going to underline. And opposing arguments or counterclaims, we are going to circle. So you're highlighting the claim, underlining reasons and evidence, and circling opposing arguments or counterclaims. Then read the text a second time to mark the text with L for logos when you see a statistic, fact, or example. So I'm actually going to change this down here. We're going to mark L for logos. Emotion is pathos. We're going to mark it with a P. Trust, ethos, we're going to mark it with an E. So emotion is pathos. So basically L for logos, P for pathos, E for ethos, okay? So about the author. Please read about the author with your shoulder partner now. I'm going to pause the video. Next, the title is called Ain't I a Woman? It's by Sovereign Truth. I'm going to play the article. You are marking, again, I'm going to go back up to what you're doing, L for logos, P for pathos, E for ethos. You are also highlighting the claim, underlining reasons and evidence, and circling the counterclaim. Here we go. I'm going to play you a different version because it's a more emotional version, so we'll play that and then I'll pause it and mark the text.
Well, children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think between the Negroes of the South and the women of the North all talking about rights, the white man will be in a fix pretty soon. That man over there says women need to be helped into carriages, lifted over ditches, and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody helps me into carriages, or carries me over mud puddles, or gives me any best place, and ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed, I have planted, I have gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much, eat as much, when I could find it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most of them sold into slavery. And when I cried out with a mother's grief, and none but Jesus could hear me, ain't I a woman? They talk about this thing in the head. What's that they call it? Intellect. That's it, honey. What's intellect got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint, and yours holds a quarter, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? That little man in black back there, he says women can't have the same rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where does your Christ come from? Where does your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. So if the first woman God ever made could turn the world upside down all alone, then these women together ought to be able to turn it right back side up again. And now that they asking to do it, men ought to let them.
GMO, can you please call the office? GMO, can you please call the office?
Okay, so now in your book, what you are going to do is mark the text for that speech. So I'm going to pause it now. You're marking for ethos, pathos, logos, highlighting the claim, underlining evidence and reasons, circling the counterclaim. Pausing now. Okay, the next speech, about the author. Please read about the author with your shoulder partner now. Okay, you are going to read this article with your shoulder partner. I will press play. It's 4 minutes long, but I do want you reading over these articles again with your shoulder partner and going back and highlighting and circling the text. Here we go.
From Remarks to the UN Fourth World Conference on Women, Plenary Session, by Hillary Rodham Clinton. Delivered 5 September 1995, Beijing, China. I would like to thank the Secretary General for inviting me to be part of this important United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women. This is truly a celebration of the contributions women make in every aspect of life. In the home, on the job, in the community, as mothers, wives, sisters, daughters, learners, workers, citizens, and leaders.
Okay, I would like you to read the rest of the article with your shoulder partner. So you're alternating. Paragraph 2 is person on the right, paragraph 3, person on the left, paragraph 4, right, 5, left, 6, right, 7, left. You're marking the text, same thing, ethos, logos, pathos, ethos E, L for logos, P for pathos, underline evidence and reasons, highlight the claim, and then the last piece is you're circling the counterclaim. Ready, set, go, and pausing the video. Okay, after you have marked the text for all of those things, number 4, it says revisit your earlier prediction about the topic of the 2 speeches. What can you now determine about the purpose and the audience for each speech? Please write that under number 4 now. I'm going to pause it. Number 5, the use of logos is critical in presenting an argument that contains relevant and valid evidence. Scan both speeches to find an example of logos in each. Discuss the effectiveness of each example for the purpose and audience of the speech. Please discuss this and write number 5 down with your shoulder partner now. I'm pausing it. Okay, number 6. Search the internet for a recording of Sovereign Truth's speech, Ain't I a Woman, and listen carefully for the speaker's argument and claim. Identify the reasoning and evaluate its soundness. Is the evidence sufficient to support the claim? I already showed you a video, so you're just going to use that one. And then you are going to answer, is the evidence sufficient to support the claim? You're going to answer that now. Okay, last piece, it says language and writer's craft using rhetorical devices. Authors of argumentative texts use rhetorical devices to create their appeals. 3 commonly used rhetorical devices used in argumentation are the rhetorical question, parallel structure, and repetition. So as you're writing your own, you want to use a rhetorical question. It's one for which the writer expects no reply, or the writer clearly directs the reader to one desired reply. Use rhetorical questions to emphasize an idea or to draw a conclusion for the facts. A rhetorical question may help remind the reader of a main point. An example of a rhetorical question is that truly where we want the environment? How can these facts lie? So they're not expecting an answer. You want to use a rhetorical question in your own essay. Parallel structure is using the same pattern of words to show that 2 or more ideas have the same level of importance. This can happen at the word, phrase, or clause level. For example, he had cooked dinner and eaten, boiled water for the next day's canteen, pulled his packs up in a tree, set up the tent, and arranged his sleeping bag and weapons. From Brian's return to Gary Paulson. So they're showing that there is 2 or more ideas that have the same level of importance that are divided by these commas here. So this is an example of that. And then the last one is repetition. It says, it's when keywords or phrases are repeated for emphasis or deliberate effect. So the example is, I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meanings of its creed. I have a dream that one day on the hills of Georgia, I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi. So the repetition is the I have a dream part. You should be using repetition if you're trying to persuade someone, and you might pull that as a piece of evidence when you're writing your essay, or you might be repeating what you're trying to get across overall. So that's, you guys read an independent reading book where it's about someone who has made speeches, and this is why. So that you can see how they're persuading the audience, and so you can be more persuasive in your own writing. Persuasive. So number 7, it says, reread Sovereign's Truth speech. What rhetorical questions does she use? What is the purpose? So you're going to find the rhetorical question, a question she doesn't necessarily want answered, write it down, and what is the purpose? So here you need to have her rhetorical question. So you have to find it in the text. I'm going to put quotes here because you gotta find the quotes or where it is. And then you have to explain what her purpose is. Okay, I'm going to pause it now, go back to the text and find that. Okay, number 8.